What's up, you lazy, entitled, basement-dwelling millennials, bootstrapping boomers, apathetic Xers, and goddamn Gen Z kids today? This is the after-school special.
That's right. We're going to be talking about things you should not do after school. Wink, wink. Except actually things that you probably should be doing after school. Specifically high school. Once you graduate, what the fuck's next?
Yeah. You see, this is near and dear to our millennial hearts because we got fucked so hard. And
That's right. I think harder than any generation ever, without a doubt.
Absolutely. In every single way possible, too. Because, like, you think about it, they're like, you gotta go to school,
right,
and get a good degree. And
gotta
they're
go
like,
to school, gotta get a good college, gotta get a good degree, and then you get a good job, and then you get your good life, and then everything's good, and then you're fucking amazing. Except
so it's like that. Like that's how you do it. And then we're like, but hey, we're gonna go. It's real expensive. They're asking for lots of money that I don't have. They're like, fucking just take out loans.
They're
Put
like,
that shit
YOLO.
on a credit card. Don't worry about it. You're gonna get a great job when it's all said and done. And we're like, okay, we'll do that
totally
because we're
worth it.
17 years old and have no fucking idea.
Right, and our parents co-signed on half the fucking loans anyways.
And then we like graduate, and it's 2009 or like, well, I was 2013 when I graduated, but not the best economic time in American history. And we're like, so I was told there would be jobs, good jobs,
Right.
Just good
More
jobs,
jobs, sir.
and there wasn't.
No.
Any
not so much.
good jobs, and they're like, yeah, you need a master's degree to serve burgers at McDonald's now,
Right.
and we will pay you 14 cents an hour.
We want this bachelor's degree and 3 years of experience for this entry-level job. That's what we want for you. Like,
And
trying to bend reality in order
Yeah.
to get these jobs.
and then so we were like a little upset, like felt like we had been maybe misled on what had happened. And all of our parents and grandparents who told us to do this turned around and been like, well, why'd you go to college, you fucking moron? Like, you shouldn't have taken out all these loans. You knew what you were signing up for. I'm like, you didn't even know what we were signing up
That's right.
for.
Oh my gosh.
We fucking asked you about it, and you're like, yeah, I don't know how to read this particular
All
document.
I know how to do is an ACT test. That's all the fuck I know. I don't know anything else. That's all I know.
And like, still to this day, you ask any of your fucking parents, like, every time that they go and be like, well, you knew what you were signing up for, or you should have known, like, go and bring them the documents that we signed and be like, can you explain this interest structure? Explain it to me.
Yeah.
Please read it and explain it.
Yeah.
They can't.
Like, I signed up for the Army, for the National Guard when I was 17, and my parents came out of the meeting and where we like finished signing everything, thinking the same thing that I did. That they were going to help like a lot with my college, process.
Yeah, GI Bill, man. You should get college for free. They're going to like teach you how to fly a fighter jet or some shit.
like,
and that's definitely going to be real world experience. And, be all you can be.
And now I have, tens of thousands of dollars in student loan debt as a 30-year-old.
Did they help with anything?
Yeah, they helped with a bit. Because I went to not a public school, which I should have done. If I was, 18 years old today, would have gone to a different college. But the Army helped out with some, and scholarships helped out with some. But here I am, still with
Student loan debt at 30.
loan debt. Yeah. Which now my sister is like 15 years old, and I'm like trying to be like this older brother who isn't trying to be too pushy, but it's also like, you don't want to be having to pay $1,000 a month for 10 years just to go to school for 4 years.
Yeah. I would say our generation got royally fucked more than any generation in history on this whole thing. And then we got gaslit the fuck out of it on the front side and the back side.
Right.
Because then we're like, well, we can only work at McDonald's. We're like, well, you should have learned a skill. And like, that's why we went to college. And they're like, well, why'd you do that? Are they too good to fucking just go to work? And I'm like, well, now
too
we're
good for the trades.
Anyway.
We're just a little bit of event session there and just intro into our mindset of why the fuck are we still talking about this, but also like,
and this is part of our cost of living series, basically.
This
that
is
we're doing.
part 3 of our cost of living series, where we are just talking about what it means to be living in America. How much does it cost? What does it look like? Is there an American dream?
Yeah.
And what income level do you have to be to experience that in today's world? We're going to get to the end at some point.
Yeah.
But right now, we're talking about the cost of education, college or otherwise.
No, absolutely. So, I mean, you really carried the water on this particular episode structure. I got to give you credit. We go through and we try to put an episode structure together, and it's usually like 1:00 in the morning the night before we're working on this shit. And for both of us, our brains on this whole series while we were structuring it was
it's tougher.
It was we expected it to be a lot easier than it was.
Yeah, I don't even really know what I was expecting, but these are nuanced issues and they require, high levels of thought process to really kind of aggregate all the information and then be able to evaluate it and come to a conclusion that is somewhat unique in any sense of the word, and not just parroting what talking heads are talking about.
Higher levels of thought process than I was able to give on some of these ones. So I appreciate Taylor definitely put the work in, most of the work in on this one.
Well, it's near and dear to my heart with my little sister, so I was like, "This is the things I'd be thinking about, like if I had a kid right now." And
I mean, usually he's cracking the whip on me. He's like, "Hey, can you do this like the day before or whatever?" It's like, "You mind logging in and putting some work into this particular outline?" He didn't even ask me on this one, so he obviously very near and dear to his heart. So I'm just winging it on my opinions through this one. But your first point was if you were to be able to go back in time, and we're choosing how to play in your 20s, would you do it the same? And you just said that you'd do a different college. Would you still do the Army?
I would probably still do the Army. I think it was overall a valuable experience, but by no means do I think that you should have to join a military service in order to advance yourself through education.
Yeah.
Should there be a public service option that allows you to do similar things? Abso-fucking-lutely. I know there is like AmeriCorps and like the Peace Corps. The Peace Corps to a lesser extent because usually that requires some sort of bachelor's degree. But like AmeriCorps helps a little bit. But a lot of countries have some sort of public service option that will help you pay for education.
A lot of countries just pay for your education.
Well, there's that too. But if you're in America, I understand putting in effort and you getting something out of it, and right. I'm all for that. And I think some sort of public service, which is why I joined the military, is to serve my country. I thought, as a 17-year-old who came from a family who majorly watched Fox News, I thought it was part of my duty to serve my country and just hopefully make it a little bit better. And I still, to a certain extent, appreciate where I was coming from and just that sort of thought. And I don't think it takes anything away from wanting to make the place that you live in better.
No, absolutely. But then you said you would have not gone to a private college.
Yeah, so I was under the impression I was going to get most of that paid for. That did not happen. For whatever reason, it didn't. So I'm straddled with a student loan debt that I was not expecting. So I would have liked to go to, if I'd known that wasn't going to come through in the way that it was supposed to, I would have gone to a similar, like a Mankato State or the U of M, wherever.
Where did you go to school?
I went to St. Thomas for 4 years. So one of the most expensive schools in Minnesota.
For sure.
If you're not from Minnesota, it's a private school, private Catholic school. I'm not Catholic at all, atheist by that point. So didn't really fit in, but it's known for business school, which is where I went for. So it was good in that sense. I think it was maybe 10% better than a state school would have been, but the price was twice as much. But yeah, so that I would have gone to a public school, absolutely, and that's where I would recommend people go today is public schooling, even though it's not what it used to be. It's just still, I think overall a better investment of your dollars down the road.
You'd still recommend a 4-year degree?
I'd say. I mean, that depends on the person. I still think,
you would still do a 4-year degree for yourself.
I would still do a 4-year degree. Yeah. But if you're not somebody who likes schooling, I don't blame you for not wanting to do it. And we've outlined options later in this episode where you don't have to go to school for 4 years to get a decent living. So there are options for people, but for me, I love business, economics, that sort of like that sort of aspect. So I still would have absolutely tried my best to make it happen.
No, yeah, I'd agree with that. I also went to a private college. I did not go into the Army, which we've talked about in the past.
A couple times, yeah.
Yeah. I did go to a private 4-year college. Mine was Baptist, not Catholic. I'm also not Baptist. But it was Baptist light. It was Baptist in name only, and it was also a dry campus in heavy finger quotations.
Oof. Yeah, mine was dry for like the first year or two, I think, and they might have switched it up, or it just might have that I stopped caring.
Yeah.
I don't remember which one it was, but
mine was dry with the asterisk of it's dry if you're a fucking moron. Like that was it. Like I would get fucking hammered and go hang out with like the middle of the night security people. They were like good friends of mine, and they would fucking, because they were bored and had nothing better to do, they're just like, if you do something dumb, we've got this in our back pocket to like get you in trouble for, like if you can't handle your alcohol. But no, in fact, one time somebody who didn't like me very much, apparently I occasionally make enemies. I don't know why that happens.
That's crazy.
I'm the most likable person
I know.
ever.
It's just like you never say anything that's controversial or never start any, sort of arguments or disagreements whatsoever.
I also don't drink very much.
Right, yeah.
And
never.
And so this was a
only
weird
only on this show, actually.
Yeah,
It's
the only
I've seen you
time.
drink.
So it was a very unusual occasion. I happened to have a couple too many libations coming back from a party, and somebody who apparently didn't like me very much thought that they were going to get me in trouble by calling security because I was going up the stairs on all fours to get to my dorm room.
I mean, at least you didn't like puke on
No.
all the stairs like as you're going up.
Nope,
you're
nope,
just
I
crawling
didn't.
Up on them all.
And
it's just an alternative stair crawling method.
Just seemed like a safer move at the
I
time.
mean,
you
probably
know,
absolutely safer.
Safety first
Yeah.
or third in most cases. But anyway, so they called security on me, and security was happening to have to deal, because this was a big party night, deal with somebody who was not keeping their stomach contents in their stomach. So they were not in a great mood, and they called them on me and said, oh yeah, there's this really drunk kid crawling up the stairs, and they're like, who is it? They're like, Jordan. And they're like, we're not worried about it. Fucking hung up on him. Something they told me while I was drunk hanging out with security at like 1 in the morning.
At least you remembered that, that one thing from college, if anything else.
I don't know. I liked my college experience. I would do it again. It definitely was expensive. Not as expensive for me as some, because I got scholarships to ride horses and some academic scholarships and stuff.
Yeah,
So
and I point out in this piece that there are certainly some pretty significant financially significant aspects of still going to college, and just socially as well. I met, in a way, I wouldn't have met my wife if I hadn't gone to the college that I went to. I met my best man and another groomswoman actually at that college. So like I met people that are still in my life today and are still very near and dear to my heart. So because of that experience.
yeah, absolutely. I met my first ex-wife at college.
So overall, maybe not as good.
yeah, that one I might have redone. Not gonna lie. But some of the people who will be standing up with me, at Emily and my wedding, will be college friends. Some of the best friends that I've made in my life. Just a lot of the experiences, and I really am happy. I went to college out of state and everything too, and just experiencing
out of state, huh? So did you have like a reciprocity with the other state? Like you just paid out of state tuition? Like you just
it was private. There was no in-state, out-of-state tuition. It was private college.
Sure.
So
Got it.
yeah, but I didn't, like I said, my tuition was pretty much all covered. All of my student loans come from room and board, which still ended up being like $30,000 in debt when I was all said and done.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about room and board. It's fucking insane right now.
But yeah, I mean, it seemed like a good deal at the time. They're like, I'm basically going to college for free. You just got to pay to live, and you have to pay that anywhere, right? Anyway, So
Technically, yes.
yeah, technically, maybe not the same amounts,
No,
but
and not for only 8 months out of the year.
yeah. But no, I thought it was a good experience. It helped me grow, I think, as a person more than anything.
Yeah.
I'm not using either of my degrees for anything today.
I would say I'm probably absolutely using my degree, if not absolutely directly, if not just I'm in a business world and I have a business degree. So like that's like I would still consider that certainly in my degree field.
That's a fair point. And I mean, like, I certainly use stuff I learned at college, but I didn't necessarily need it to do what I do now.
Right. Do I need my historical or historical English literature class in college? I don't know. Like probably not, but
But it makes you a more interesting person.
I mean, if anything, it teaches you like how to if it's something you're paying for and you feel like you have to do, like it teaches you how to have just kind of force yourself to do something. It's not like the best lesson to learn, or like the best way to put it, but like there's something to be said about it.
So you would do it a little different. I would probably do it the same, minus the ex-wife part. But let's go over the options of what our options, what your options are today.
So, I mean, there's a couple options that you could take if you're graduating from high school. Obviously, you can go to college. Another thing you could do would be to go directly into the workforce and work for some sort of apprenticeship or trades, which I'm going to outline further as some pretty good options. You could start your own business somehow. As a 18-year-old, supposedly people say that's an option. I mean, unless you have a stellar business plan, I don't know who's going to be offering you too much money to be starting a business. But there are some businesses that don't require capital to start. So, you're some sort of entrepreneur in that way. I sort of dislike that word entrepreneur because it's like,
well, it'd be better if the French had a word for it.
Yeah.
Oh, come on. You don't remember the George Bush quote?
No.
Oh, my God. George Bush.
I was like 10 years old.
Oh, my God. Yeah. We're not that much. I'm not that much older than you.
But I didn't care about George Bush.
Oh, my God. He stood up on stage and he's like, something about why the French aren't as great as Americans is because the French don't have a word for entrepreneur.
I mean, I gotta guess that entrepreneur is derived from French.
It is not derived. It is a French word.
1-to-1.
1-to-1, a French word.
That sounds exactly what I would think George Bush would say.
And then you gotta wonder if this was just like a speechwriter sabotaging a person that they knew was an idiot.
Right.
Or if that was just like riffing.
Yeah.
Yeah, just like, and you know what? Because I'm the decider. I'm going to decide. This is the example I'm going to go with.
Oh, George Bush, our best president who never wanted to be a president.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we're going to walk through a couple options. I outlined college degree as option number one, as I still probably recommend it to most people if they do decent in high school and they feel like they want to do something.
Personally, okay,
that
so
is not a trade. So yeah, I guess go for it.
Oh, I think that a 4-year degree is still good, and I honestly think that the experiences and the growth you get from living on campus through a 4-year degree are irreplaceable. I also think they're unattainable for a lot of people financially at this point.
Right.
But I think like if I were to do it over pragmatically and practically, with the options that they have today, because back in my day we had AP, and AP advanced placement.
Still around today.
It still is. It's fallen out of favor more for CIS, college and schools.
Yeah. We had PSEO a little bit.
That was just starting to come about, was PSEO. What does that stand for again? I don't even remember. I don't remember.
But this is the same thing as college. And CIS.
Post-secondary,
Education offering.
I think something like that. Anyway,
Yeah.
that sounds right. Anyway, AP was worthless. I mean, that gave you like a couple credit hours for college.
I got out of a couple of my econ classes for AP Econ in high
I got a
school.
couple out of my 101 classes. I got out of a couple of them, but I
Yeah.
mean, for what it was, it didn't really save me anything in the long run.
There's a couple,
Yeah,
some time.
Yeah, a little bit of time. It was like worth it, quote unquote. But with like the college and schools, you can get like actual entire classes just completely done while you're still in high school for free, depending on where you go to school and if they value human beings or which state you live in.
Right.
And I'd say pragmatically, if I was doing it today, that would be the way to go. Get your credits done.
Yeah, I feel like if you're in a position to do something like that, or CIS or PSEO or even AP, you're probably somebody who's considering college regardless.
Yeah.
So if you're like not doing anything like that, and not to say that you shouldn't go to college, but if you're not planning for your future in that sense already, when you're at that stage, you're probably not like the biggest candidate. And like I'm saying, I'm not saying you shouldn't go to college. I'm just saying, like, if you're doing some of those future planning, like college planning stages while you're in high school, like, you're very much more likely to want to go to college, and that's sort of who I'm talking to.
Yeah.
In this.
No, and absolutely, but I'm saying the difference of like I really think that there's value in the on-campus four-year experience, but that's also a very expensive experience.
Yes. And that's I outlined is that like 4 years is really tough, especially room and board for 4 years. Even if you're going to a public college, in-state tuition, it's still really, really difficult.
So this is one of the better ways to do that. And then local community colleges, if you can live at home, or even live in an apartment and do that to get your associate's level, your first 2 years kind of taken on, and then go do your last 2 years in college to really finish out your 4-year degree, and then you have something that in theory gives you higher earning potential. And that would probably be the cheapest way to get through all of that.
Right. So, like, to put some numbers to it, so I guess even before that, I mean, I think it's interesting to point out that 41% of recent grads are underemployed as of 2020. So what that means, underemployed, it just means that they are either unemployed or they are employed, but they're not in a field of which their degree is entailed.
Yeah.
So that's a lot.
That is a lot.
And
which is part of the problem. I mean, and so for example, you went to school for business right out the gate, right?
Yeah.
So original.
I started at economics, and then I decided, I was like, the theory of economics is kind of fucking weird. So like, but I really enjoy like my operational management side of things. So like, then I moved into business and in that sort of like operations management.
I fucking loved economics. I wish I would have known.
It was good. Once I got past like game theory and like macro theory economics, I was like, this is just dumb. Like I can't. There's no reality involved here. We're just doing math for fun.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, and I should say I loved economics. I did macro, micro, and personal finance. That was as far into economics as I got for my business degree. But I started off with a psych degree because I took AP Psych and basically slept through it and aced the class with like a 99 or something. I'm like, clearly this is my calling in life. And I'm like, what the fuck am I going to do with this like a year into collage? But I'm like,
I'm a therapist, obviously.
Yeah.
You would be the worst therapist.
I would have been so...
the absolute worst. Like, I don't think... if I saw you as my therapist, I would probably be like, all right, I'm just going to go watch self-help on YouTube. Instead, I'm going to go watch the guys on like the finance YouTube. It's like, you could be a millionaire in your brain if you just harmonize the energy. Like, I think I'd rather watch those guys.
Really.
Nah.
I appreciate the faith in my therapeutic abilities. Funny thing, I thought about it. Well, and two of the things, I was like the only two fields of counseling that I would have considered going into really the only one. Well, it was addiction and couples. And I was like, well, addiction I feel very hypocritical on because I have never been addicted to anything and I regularly abuse alcohol.
Yeah, that's number one.
Yeah, so I was like, that it didn't feel genuine enough to me.
Yeah.
And then couples, so growing up was always in the middle of my parents' like relationships. Like I was always forced to be in the middle of them. And everybody else came to me for fucking advice, and I used to give a shit about how they felt. And then at a certain point, I stopped because people are fucking stupid and they don't listen to anything. They want to talk. That's really what it comes down to, is they just want to talk about their problems.
Right.
They don't actually want advice or help. And I got so fucking sick of it that I'm like, if I have to listen to one more person tell me about their stupid fucking problems that has such an obvious answer, and I give them like that obvious answer and then they just ignore it and then come bitch to me about the same fucking problem, I am going to murder them in a very unpleasant way, and that probably would not make me the best couples counselor. So I got really burnt out on couples counseling before I ever even got a psychology degree.
Before you even married.
Yeah, before I was even married. Yeah.
Reminds me of the show Shrinking with Jason. It's not Seagal, but whatever. With Harrison, James.
Wow, you are doing great here.
The show Shrinking. Harrison Ford. That's what I was thinking. Harrison Ford, and it's Jason Segel. It's not Seagal. It's Segel. They have a show called Shrinking on Apple TV. It's a fantastic therapist show.
Okay.
That kind of touches on a little bit of that. But anyways, getting back, we're bringing it back full circle here. So it does matter what type of degree you get today. If you were going to go to college, I would highly recommend you to get some sort of computer science, information technology, mathematics degree.
STEM. Just go STEM.
STEM. Yeah. Say STEM, can't go wrong right now. Business or economics, still very valuable degrees. Obviously, like nursing or like becoming a doctor, lawyer, like that sort of shit. Like obviously, that stuff is still in high demand and still pays a lot.
Also costs a lot to get them.
Well, right, but so that's the point. Is like if you're gonna get a college degree, like go to a field where like you're gonna get a higher income out of it. If you don't want to go into those fields, I don't know. I don't know that I'd recommend it. But if you are,
it's a fair point.
If you are interested in those fields or just anything semi-related to them, generally you're going to be better off. So basically what it comes down to is if you're on campus for all 4 years at a state school like U of M and you get a couple scholarships, probably you're still going to end up paying around $900 to $1,000 a month for the next 10 years to pay off student loans. If you do the route where you go to community college for like 2 years and then go to state school, but you still stay on campus, or you move out of your parents' basement, you know, after you've been living in there for the 2 years, you go to community college and then you move on campus. Then you're looking at $500 to $600 for 10 years. So there's a pretty big difference between that and, you know, 500 and 1,000.
Yeah.
So that's what I would recommend. If you still get some of that on-campus experience, it's not the same. But if you really don't have the money, and if you're not going into a field that's like a cutting-edge field, like computer science or like something like that, I cannot recommend you staying all 4 years on campus. From personal experience, but just like it's just not worth it, in my opinion, if you're having to pay over $1,000 a month for 10 years straight. Just to live on campus for 4 years.
No, I agree, and I also completely disagree. Cause,
right?
Like,
no, and I'm conflicted. We're conflicted, right?
It really sucks because like I want everybody to have that experience of like that on campus living. Like I think that is one of the most valuable experiences I've ever had in my life, and I just hate that that's just not something that people can go do, you know, and have to consider this. But again,
economically speaking, it's very difficult to rationalize that.
Yeah. And it's frustrating because it wasn't always that way. I mean, the average cost of tuition in 1970 was like $600 a year, and today it's $20,000 a year.
Yeah,
Like
no,
it's fucking.
from where we were to where we are
Uh-huh.
now. College education is immensely more expensive. I don't have the exact percentage in front of you, but I just know, and everybody
It's over
knows
3,000%. Over 3,000%.
it's like the thing over housing, even
Mm-hmm.
of what has gone from affordable to exponentially just
Mm-hmm.
uncomprehensibly unaffordable, which is where we are today. But there are still, like we said, kind of some benefits to a 4-year degree beyond just the economic factors of earning more money, which we haven't really discussed. So I'll just kind of put it out there. So apparently, with some sort of like regression formula, inflation formula for like people who try to go to college but don't actually make it out of through college, versus people who do. People who at least try to go to college generally will earn at least $650,000 more in a medium lifetime earnings than just a pure high school graduate. That number could be a lot more if you go to, I don't know, a different school, or you just go to a different specific
that's
field.
the median. Obviously, that's the middle. So
Yeah, you could be earning up to $1 million more over your lifetime, which is like tens of thousands of dollars or more over a 30-year span. Like just going to college, and that's for men. For women, it's a little bit less, just because women earn less. It's like
they're not worth as much,
Yeah, obviously, we don't think that at all. Yeah, women
70 cents on the dollar.
Right. That's basically the ratio of how much more worth it is for women. But besides that, there's benefits of like college graduates, for likely reasons you could think of, are 3.5 times less likely to be impoverished and nearly 5 times less likely to be imprisoned over their lifetime.
Oh, you have it. I was just going to ask. I was like, I wonder if there's a suicide statistic on that.
There is. I tried to find the most least morbid way to say this, so I just found this one specific stat. Apparently, college graduate men, probably straight white males, but just men in general, are half as likely to commit suicide than their college graduate counterparts.
I'll actually posit that it's more likely if you are not a straight white man.
Right, because probably more
you,
likely to commit suicide. Yeah.
No, you're more likely to not commit suicide going to college. Like if you've been to college.
Got it. Yeah.
Because like you think about high school fucking sucks, especially if you go in some shitty little fucking podunk town.
Yeah.
Right. Where you feel really isolated if you are a minority or part of the LGBTQ community.
Yeah.
And then you go to college, you find your people in college. Like, it's a whole
Even
different
at
experience.
St. Thomas, which is a very Catholic school, there was still like a pride group at St. Thomas, and like they had like, I don't know, nobody thought they were weird or crazy. Or
right,
anything.
exactly. You learn that it's okay to be you. So I would bet that that's really where those suicide numbers come down, is with those communities. Like,
no, you're probably right.
I bet.
Right. That's probably driving a good portion of that.
So, I don't know. I mean, that's totally a guess, but
yeah, that seems like a fair conjecture, certainly. But yeah, so like we said, it's not just about the money. Certainly there are economic benefits generally if you choose the right degree, or generally like the fields that are going to be higher in demand. But it's just, I think the best thing that I got out of it was like learning how to like think. Everybody talks about, oh, college brainwashes you. I'm like, there's no way.
College unbrainwashes.
Yeah, it just helps you find ways to create like pathways and just like figure out how
critical thinking. It teaches critical thinking, and it also forces you to interact with people in situations that you would never be forced to interact with otherwise.
Right.
Which
it prepares
teaches
you
critical
for
thinking.
the workforce in a way. So like I felt like I was in a pretty big advantage. One of my first jobs right out of college, I was working in a call center for United Healthcare, and it's one where there's like a 2-month training process just to start the work. So it's like a little bit higher trained out of entry level, like really entry level job.
No.
And there was some people that had a college degree and some people that didn't. And I like, it was a little bit like night and day of what like I won a bunch of like awards and stuff for like doing the best job or like the most calls and like
Got you a
all
pizza
this stuff.
party and
They did buy me a meal at Manny's, so it's a little bit better than a pizza party.
that is a little bit better than a pizza party.
But it's still along those lines, yes. So like it does make a difference.
Totally off topic.
This is exactly what we need right now.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's not totally off topic. It's on the pizza party topic, sort of.
Okay.
But completely off topic on education. I was working on fixing my barn roof with a buddy yesterday, and we were listening to the radio, and they were talking about how some companies now are doing an incentive where you can expense going out with your coworkers after work. Like, so you don't have to get it pre-approved. You can just go out for drinks and dinner with your coworkers after work. You can expense it, and it just like has to be like after 3:00, whatever. And apparently that like increases productivity and I hate companies trying to force you to like
cohabitate with the people that are around you at your workplace.
Right. Because obviously the reason they're doing it is it's making you want to come to work more.
Right. And form bigger bonds or, stronger bonds with your coworkers.
Because that's profitable for them.
Right.
So like I get that, and like I hate to like that idea, but
it's actually the best idea I've heard in a while.
Right.
To be honest.
And like in lieu of the pizza party, and that's what they were comparing it to, is like you get a fucking pizza party, like nobody wants to be fucking pizza party. But like you think about it, if we could hang out and Emily and Addie could expense their drinks and
at a happy
dinner,
hour down in the cities and like that
like you know what I mean?
That's tempting, right? That's something.
And so if anybody runs a business and is listening to this, think about it.
Think about it. Anyway, if you run a major corporation that has to offer incentives outside of work in order to bring people towards your work, think about that. Above anything else we've said, clearly, that's the one. If
you take anything away from this,
don't increase wages. Just give us that benefit.
Free drinks after work. That's what we're looking for here.
Exactly.
I don't know. I just thought it was a cool idea.
No, that's interesting to hear that on the radio.
Yeah,
like that's interesting. So that's kind of college. It's a little bit of a risk reward thing, probably still for most people who are thinking about college and are serious about their schooling. Probably still worth it if you can find some way to make it affordable. Like it's absolutely worth it. But just don't saddle yourself with an insurmountable amount of student
try
loans.
to be smart about it going into it.
Yes.
For the long term.
And don't expect you to be making the median salary of your career right away.
No.
Take like at least 25% of that median salary off, and that's
I would take 50% off.
Yeah, you could even even if you want to be conservative, take 50% of the median salary off, and that's what you're going to be making. And that's when your student loan payments are going to start.
Yep.
So if that student loan payment is 25 to 30% of that income, that's not good. That's not good.
And start paying those unsubsidized loans as early as you can.
Yeah. Well, sometimes unsubsidized are better than like private loans.
No, but start paying them as soon as you can.
Well, yes,
I mean,
obviously.
the interest starts accumulating right away. The subsidized ones, whatever, fucking let them sit.
But if that's not your thing, if you say fuck AP, if you say fuck PSEO, which is totally fair, by the way, it's definitely not for everybody. I don't hold anybody in lower regard if they feel that way.
The world needs ditch diggers.
God, such a fucking shitty stereotype. Also, it would be a pretty difficult job in Minnesota. Not gonna lie, trying to dig ditches in the fall or the spring.
I mean, you could dig them all winter. This year by hand, damn
That's
near.
true.
But,
this year would be a pretty good year for ditch diggers. But let's talk about the trades.
Also, my dad is a ditch digger. I mean, an excavator, but more or less. That's what
if you have to use heavy machinery, I don't know if you kind of like doesn't ring the same.
Yeah. It's funny. I mean,
you consider
he digs holes for a living and fills them back in.
That's actually a really good trade. Actually, is heavy machinery is a trade
operator
that you can get into. Yeah.
It is.
It's not the one of the best that I found, but it is a trade.
So that is a point. We'll get, I guess, into your trades and apprenticeship numbers here. But It's often something because people who went to college and got all elite, and the people who went into the trades are mortal enemies apparently.
Yeah.
And they always talk like, I can make $450 million a year doing plumbing or whatever the fuck they always try to say, to make themselves seem better than people who got college degrees. And I've kind of been on both sides of it. And the problem is, like, yeah, you can make really great money in the trades.
Yeah.
You can also not have a fucking job like most of the people in the trades in 2008, 2009, 2013, 14,
To be
15.
fair, a lot of people got laid off.
Right.
across
No.
all-
They absolutely did. But trades tend to be, certain trades tend to be a bit more boom and bust than a lot of other careers. And it's just something to keep in mind that if you want to be like a welder, for example, welders can make great money, but you are traveling all the time. And like when there's slow times, because a lot of welding is often tied to the oil industry. When they're not,
oil
when
industry. Apparently, there's a thing called underwater deep welding.
There
Like-
is, there
like
is.
you can get really specialized with welding,
You can, and you can make tons of money doing it.
but you got to really try to do those things. Like you're not just working 9 to 5 in the city that you grew up in. Like you're not making $100,000 in Minneapolis as a welder.
No. And that's something that you need to consider when you go into these trades. Is there's a lot of sacrifice that you need to make. And a lot of opportunities you need to try to capitalize on to make that a lifelong lucrative career. And a lot of times it's not. I know a lot of people who went into the trades, did apprenticeships, did stuff that they thought was going to make them great money, and a lot of them made great money for a short period of time. And they spent great money, like most small town students with.
Yeah, right.
And now they work the average small town job, and are stuck here in the same situation that they would have been.
Yeah, I mean, just because you're making money in a boom doesn't mean you shouldn't save your money and invest your money for retirement properly and all that stuff, and make sound financial decisions.
So it's just worth considering what those types of trades require to make sure that you can continue to make a consistent living wage for an entire career that's hopefully somewhat reliable and slightly recession proof and isn't going to move on. Like, I mean, like you think about oil workers as a trade.
Yeah, that's got to be a boom and bust situation.
Yeah,
and
like
certainly one you have to move to where the oil is, obviously.
So you get, we had the big boom out in the Dakotas back a while back,
and it's definitely cooled off a bit.
Oh, and we were out there. We were digging houses because they didn't have enough housing out in the Dakotas because nobody fucking lives there. We were out there doing residential housing during the oil boom. And yeah, you could make a ton of money, and then suddenly you couldn't. You know what I mean? And and that's the thing. And it's like, what are you doing after that? And it's just it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, you can make 6 figures, and then you can make absolute dog shit. And you never know when that's going to happen. So it's just something to got to keep in mind for that kind of stuff.
Yeah, but there are some really good options, and I've outlined a couple that are maybe less. So a couple of them, obviously, you'd recognize, but a couple of them, I was surprised that people consider these trades or just like apprenticeships.
Yeah, I'm looking at this.
A couple of them do require maybe like a year of schooling or just like specified schooling, but nothing even remotely close to a 4-year degree or even like an associate's. So like the number one that I found was sonographer, and a lot of these that are like a little bit medically based.
Yeah, a dental hygienist.
Do not need a medical degree or any like 4-year degree.
I don't feel like I'd consider that a trade. I mean, maybe it is. I guess apparently it made your list, but
that's what I get. But you don't need a degree to
like
be
plumber. Definitely a trade.
I know,
HVAC tech.
I know.
I get that trade.
I know.
So not radiation therapist. Not so much.
I
Like I
know.
feel like that's not a.
It's not what people consider like the everyday bread and butter trades. But these are jobs that you don't require a bachelor's degree for or even an associate's degree for. Maybe like a year, like I said, of a little bit of schooling, but generally speaking, maybe an apprenticeship in order to get into. So like these, like sonographer, I think you need like maybe up to a year of schooling, but the median income is $80,000 plus. So like and you're it's basically an office job. You're just working an ultrasound little thing, like basically. So and you don't need to go to med school or go pre-med for that. And same thing with radiation therapist. Look into it if you're interested in any sort of anything medical, or you just don't want to go to school for business. Like fuck that. Like look into being a radiation therapist. They're making close to $90,000 a year median salary, without a 4-year degree. Then you got stuff like plumbing, electrician, HVAC tech. They're right around that 60,000 mark,
which honestly is kind of pathetic at this point.
It's really not as much as you'd think it would be, but it's still, when you consider that the median income for just a person in the United States is $35,000.
Right, it's basically double or close to double that.
Right,
yeah.
It's
a big bump. It's a big bump. It's just sad that, like, I mean, I would value those careers at more than $60,000 a year. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like, if I got a chance of getting shocked or have to deal with human shit literally every day at work, you're gonna be paying me more than $60,000 a year. There's no two ways about that.
Okay, this isn't linemen, electricians.
I understand that.
Okay.
I was fixing your fucking light switch the other day, and you thought that I was like, you were worried about me getting a fucking electrocuted there.
Yeah, I didn't know what you were gonna do. You were just open up my like outlets and the switch right there. I thought you were gonna mess with like the part where there's like actual wires. You didn't even take that switch out.
I didn't.
If I knew that's what you were gonna do, you're just gonna take the faceplate off. I would have never made that comment. But.
I'm just saying, you know, like you still get zapped. I'm not saying you're gonna get like sent to the hospital, but you know, it's not a pleasant experience.
I've touched live wire before. Got a little.
I have too.
A little zippy zappy on the arm. Anyways, so yeah, plumber, electrician, HVAC tech, right around 60,000 for median income. A minor apprenticeship for a couple of years to get into those fields. Obviously, you can't do anything about boom and bust of those like fields. Like if you're an electrician or a plumber.
And honestly, like residential plumbing and electrician is pretty safe.
Yeah,
because you don't rely as heavily on new construction. And you know, people still shit and need to have the lights on. So like those ones aren't horrible, but obviously again, not paying 6 figures.
Right. Although if you are lucky enough to start your own independent contractor while being a plumber, electrician, or HVAC tech, you can start to make some larger gains closer to that 6-figure mark. But just working for somebody, that's really not a terrible wage. Last thing I had on there, like you said, dental hygienist. Another one where maybe there's like a year of schooling, but then you're making $75,000-$80,000 a year, and you're not having to, break your back every day digging ditches or anything like that. And doesn't require a 4-year degree. So
just got to deal with that halitosis.
Yeah, you gotta. So that one specifically, the guy was like, "Oh, like if you're a pretty woman, then that's like better for you." I'm like, that's a pretty sexist thing to say. But he was like, "Yep, like that's kind of." He was like, "It's kind of sexist to say, but like." Generally, if you're like a happy-go-lucky like woman,
perky little blonde, you're more likely to get hired.
Better off. I was like, wow, that's what every dental hygienist in the entire country is.
Hey, but dentists commit suicide at like twice the national average, right? So maybe they need a perky little fucking dental hygienist to keep them from just offing themselves at the end of the day.
Not here to comment on that. But so those are the jobs that I think that are really potentially really beneficial, obviously to the country, but to yourself without having to do a 4-year degree. If that's your jam, then look into that sort of stuff. Then we got you had a little stuff here.
I did.
Entrepreneur just entering the workforce.
Yeah, so like obviously, especially like I grew up in a small town. A lot of people didn't do any of this shit. They just got out of high school, went to school, which is something that our parents and grandparents used to be able to do with no fucking problem. And they could pull a lever in a factory and make $1 million a year, which was awesome for them. Not the case anymore. So like starting your own business, and I see this a lot with people who are like, we don't need to raise the minimum wage. Fucking start a business, and that's you can, and I've worked for myself for a long time. My dad's a small business owner, and like if you can do that, I highly recommend it. It's fucking great, but it takes money. The average cost for a startup is like $30,000 to $40,000. Now,
I don't know. I don't have that much money in my bank account.
Right?
Like, I'm not ready to pull that trigger.
And it's not even that it's just $30,000 to $40,000. It's $30,000 to $40,000 plus you don't have a fucking income because you're not making any money when you start a business.
Job that has to do
most
good.
of the time. Now I did find some stuff that said your average micro business, your work from home thing, that's more of a $3,000 to $5,000 startup. Those kinds of things are something that you can maybe ease into in your spare time while you're working for somebody else, which is great. That's very side hustle millennial shit that
Yeah, exactly.
I don't necessarily like. You shouldn't have to do that. Now, if you can and you can make that your living, that's amazing.
I guess if you want to, but you should still be able to maintain a lifestyle that is livable.
Yeah.
With 40-hour work.
So if you do start a business, you're gonna fail. Like 90% of new businesses fail.
That's pretty rough. It's not a good margin for success.
And so like I want to qualify. 90% is within like 15 to 20 years.
Sure.
So it's 20% within the first year. It's about 10-ish% a year for the first like 5 years, and then it starts to taper off after that. But if you fail at 15 years, I mean, I'd almost rather fail in the first year or two, because if you go 15 years into a new business and you fail,
and you haven't made that much money in those 15 years,
right? You are 15 years behind the curve of everybody else and trying to
probably don't have any any retirement savings, don't got no 401k, probably had really shitty health insurance the whole time.
And my father, again, small business owner, he owns an excavating company. I'll tell you, the entry level cost to an excavating company is quite a bit more than $30,000 or $40,000. Right. I mean, a new dozer is $120,000, a new excavator is $150,000,
and you can't finance that kind of shit because there's no profit margin. Then,
yeah,
if you finance everything, then all that money just goes straight to the bank.
So he's kind of getting at that point where he wants to get out, and his retirement is we're selling off the stuff he's got equity in, and he's hoping for some Social Security from back when he did work a lot of hours back in the 80s and 90s, which he's going to get some from. Yeah. And he's going to work as long as he can work doing, a little bit here and there, and and rent out his house probably eventually at a certain point. But like, that's his retirement plan. Like, this is the kind of shit that you need to think about and worry about. It's a tough thing to do. Yeah. There's a lot of risk that comes with that.
And there's a lot of boom and bust years.
There's a ton of boom and bust. We went through the bust part with bankruptcy when the economy crashed, That's why we were out in North Dakota. You don't want to drive out there, fucking live in North Dakota and dig fucking houses.
Nobody wants to live in Bismarck.
No, and that's where we fucking were for a long time. Then we went to Mandan, which was even fucking worse. Williston, oh my God, fucking horrible. Anyway, North Dakota sucks. Don't ever go there.
Sorry if you live in North Dakota.
Yeah, I'm sorry if you live in North Dakota. I'm not apologizing for what I said. I'm just sorry you exist in that place. Yeah, it's one of those things where his entire life has been a struggle. It's why I didn't go into the trades. Why I don't fucking run heavy equipment today. Because
you just buy it and have fun with it.
Yeah, I do. Buy it, I have fun with it, I sell it. But that's why I didn't do it. Is because I witnessed it. It was fucking horrible. And then I've seen all the people who, went into work and they got out of high school and are like, oh, I can make $15-20 an hour fucking pushing a broom, running a shovel, running a skid steer. And then again, it went bust and they're trying to figure out what they can and can't do. And half of those kids are still in the same place that they were when we got out of high school. It's a tough thing to do. So unless you really have a solid path leaving high school into the workforce, it's not 1960 anymore. You can't just go graduate high school and
you're not working as a grocery bagger anymore.
No.
Paying for anything meaningful.
So unfortunately, there's not a ton of options. If you do want to start your own business, the best way I can think to do is to start working in the industry that you want to work in. And start to build relationships, start to build your skill sets, and ease your way into into working for yourself, which is again what
or just do the thing where you work in a full-time job that does pay the bills, whatever that job is, whether it's related or not, and then you start like a side hustle, right?
Well,
and
that's
then,
the micro business
the
at
micro
home
business
thing.
kind of working that up to full-time, like a 3 to 5 year plan maybe. Like that's something you could do, but again, that's
there's a lot of dice rolling in
it's
that.
a lot of dice rolling, and it's a millennial-ish type of Gen X kind of thing. Like that, you didn't need to do that in the 70s. You didn't need to do that in the 60s. That was like if you did that, that was cream on the cake. You know, that wasn't like your bread and butter.
Yeah,
that's something that we have to do now because things are so expensive and wages just aren't keeping up.
No, so I don't know. I would not recommend. I would definitely recommend getting some sort of formal certification, apprenticeship, degree of some sort.
Even like a 2 years associate at like a community college, I think that goes a long way, and you could do that pretty cheaply for less than 20 grand, and you're walking away with something that probably will still help you down the road.
Absolutely, and something you can build on if you need to in the future. So.
Well, I think that's all we got for today. Appreciate you guys hanging around. Definitely follow us on everything: YouTube, TikTok, offthewagon.com. Get some merchandise. Check out. Hopefully, our Patreon's up and running by the time you listen to this. Fingers crossed.
It won't be. Don't worry.
They don't know that. It's totally gonna do it. We're gonna make it happen. But we appreciate you guys tuning in. Is there anything else?
Just off your wagon on all the socials. Let them eat toast on all of these socials. Again, if you are listening to this podcast and you want to watch it, you can watch it on Off Your Wagon YouTube. There's a whole episode on that. Otherwise, buy merch at offyourwagon.com. It helps us continue to do this.
Get some stickers, son.
Yeah, you can get some stickers. We're working on some koozies. Otherwise, we love you. We appreciate you tuning in and listening to us blabber on and bullshit like we normally would at the bar if you weren't here. So
that's right.
We appreciate you guys, and we'll see you next week on Let Them Eat Toast.
Thanks for tuning in. See you guys.